Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Hi if you're new. Today I'm going to let you know how I got on with my March TBR. So I am a mood reader, but I was getting a little bit overwhelmed. My physical TBR is a little bit ridiculous and I was struggling to choose a book. So I thought for a month I'm going to have a break and I'm going to set myself a TBR. So I put loads of prompts in a mug and then I chose 8 books relating to the 8 prompts that I pulled out. And these are the 8 books that I read. Now, out of the 8 books, I read 7.5, and I'm going to go through these with you now. The first book that I read was Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crowe. This is by Jessica Townsend. It is a marvellous magical middle grade, is really the best description. It was just fun. I love the descriptions. I love the magical world. I love the characters, the relationships between the characters. It was just a fantastic read. I devoured this in a couple of nights. I would definitely recommend this. It was just brilliant. So it was a really, really good start. And I started feeling really, really enthusiastic about my March TBR. Then I read The Dog Share. Now, I had the virus when I was reading this, so I wasn't in the best frame of mind. And although I'd started this in a physical format, I had to finish it with an audiobook because at the time I just couldn't bring myself to read anything. And I mean, this was sweet. It was cute. Okay, we had, you know, the love interest, people brought together by the dog, but it had that, obviously, the romance element where you know what's going to happen. There is that predictability. And for me, it was okay. It was good. It wasn't wow, but it was fine. Right, what did I read next? I then couldn't help myself and I read Wundersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crowe. This is the second in the Nevermore series. So basically, I didn't tell you at the beginning, did I? So Morrigan Crowe is a girl who thinks she's not quite a normal girl, but she's blamed for loads of bad things that happen in her town. And, you know, she's been told that she's going to die when she reaches a certain age, and she's just reached this age. And she's not got the best of lives going on, but then somebody whisks her away from this, takes her to this magical world, tells her that actually she's got these powers, she is an amazing person, and then the adventure begins. So this is the second in the series, and there's a lot more magical creatures, different characters introduced. It was an amazing follow-on. To me, this was as good as the first book, and I think that's quite rare these days to actually have a book keep up that momentum like when they hit the second, third books. But this was just brilliant. It was just fantastic. Again, highly recommend. I then had a really cozy evening reading Charlotte's Web. I have since watched the film again with Juki. It was quite nice. I know I'd read this as a child, but truthfully I don't remember, and it was just really, really nice. I just sat down one evening and just read the whole thing. It was really, really cute. I love the illustrations in this particular copy. It was a lovely, warm-hearted read. Then we hit a little disappointment. I've been on a pretty good high. I was enjoying myself in my March TBR. And then thank you, MC Beaton. Agatha Raisin beating about the bush. This was a very generous 2 stars. I just hate the character. I mean, I'm pleased that this came up on the March TBR because I have bought so many MC Beaton books and I hadn't picked any up, and it was getting a bit stupid in the end. You know, have all these books and not even touch one of them. So I'm pleased that I did the March TBR for me to pick this up. Alas, 'twas not for me. I just didn't like the characters. I didn't actually have much of a problem with the story, although it was ridiculously far-fetched. But yeah, I didn't like the characters, and that's just what threw me, and it wasn't an amazing reading experience. That being said, the book was really short, and I think I either read it in a day or over 2 days, so it was fine. It was fine. Then I read How to Find Love in a Bookshop. This was a bit of a slow starter for me. With romance, I tend to find a bit like Marmite. I love them or hate them, and this was starting the direction I thought, I'm not going to like this book. There was different characters introduced to every sort of chapter, and I was getting a bit confused. And then sort of like I had this switch flick and it all fell to pieces. It fell together, sorry, and I loved it. absolutely loved it in the end. So we have Amelia. She's taken over a bookshop which her dad had. He passed away. You've got various characters come in, so you learn all about their love interests. Obviously, we find out a lot about Amelia, and she's got to make this decision. Does she want to keep the bookshop open or not? There's financial issues. It's very stressful. But in the end, this just created a massive warm fuzzy. It was actually a really sweet book. And again, without doing the March TBR, I don't know when I would have picked this up. So, you know, well done, March TBR. That was all right. And then this one, Murder on the Orient Express, Agatha Christie. I picked this up months ago and I read about half a dozen pages and I thought, there's no way I'm going to read this book anytime soon. I thought it was going to be heavy. I wasn't looking forward to this. However, I did choose this on my March TBR, and once I got about 30-40 pages in, I bloody loved it. I sailed through it then. Did I read this in a night or 2 nights? But it was really bloody fantastic. I loved all the interviews with each of the different suspects. I didn't realise that Poirot was quite such a comedic character. It was just, for my first Agatha Christie experience, this was a really, really good book. So that's 7 out of the 8 books, okay? And the last one was the one that I actually really, really wanted to read out of all of them. And I'm only halfway through Jade Legacy, and I was determined to read that this month. But I'm just finding it very political, very heavy, and I'm only able to read a couple of chapters at a time. So I've made really good progress with this, and I'm going to continue this. Like maybe still read a chapter or 2 a day. So yeah. So it wasn't a complete pass. I read 7.5 out of my 8 books. I still think I did really, really well. And what I did enjoy about the experience is it did get me to pick up books that I wouldn't normally pick up, like the mysteries. That being said, I don't want to do it again. I'm going to be honest, it wasn't for me. I really struggled because there were the couple of books that I didn't want to particularly read, like the mysteries and the romance. Who's given a summary of the books? Is it you or me? Do you want to say hi to everyone? We just want to bark at traffic. I do apologise. Anyway, yeah, because I wasn't choosing the books and I felt pressured to reading them, it just, for me, was just really, really, I felt it hard to pick up the books, but once I'd picked up the books, it was fine. But I'd sit down, I'd be like, okay, I really fancy doing some reading, and then I'd look up at the pile, I think, I really don't want to read any of those. So yeah, so I felt a bit slumpy, but as I said, the books were good. So on the whole, most of them, it was a very mixed experience, but to me, I really don't think I'm going to do it again, not anytime soon. Maybe once a year I might give it a go. I mean, at the moment, I'm doing a reading challenge where I'm just giving myself an open prompt for the whole month, like books that I haven't seen discussed on BookTube. That's so open. I've got a few hundred books that prompt would apply to, so I haven't got a set TBR, and I'm finding it really quite fun. But having this pile of 8 books and knowing that I've got to read them, for me, almost became stressful. So those of you that do it, really well done. I don't know how you do it. I really, really struggled this month. But anyway, that was my experience. As I said, I don't think I did too bad. I have a vlog that I will be putting up shortly, which is like my first few days of reading, of my reading challenge. So hopefully I shall see you on that very shortly.